Yell at my roommate to shut up.
Uh-oh.
Well, let's just start it off.
All
That's
right.
what.
It looks like this broadcast was deleted on Facebook. Try
Wow.
creating a new broadcast. This is very odd. Well, we are live now, at least on YouTube. So, hello everyone on YouTube, and welcome to our Ghouls Disability and Horror Day. I am delighted to be able to welcome some illustrious guests for our last panel of the day. Can't believe
Last
it's
but
the
not
last
least.
one already. Last but definitely not least. And so I'm going to very quickly just give a quick self-description of myself. And then we'll move on to Rabia and our panelists. And so if you have been able to join us for our other two panels today, we had one specifically on disability identity and horror. We had one on mental health and horror. And now we're talking about the horror community. And I am delighted to be sharing the stage with my co-host, Rabia Satabi. And sorry. And I am Ariel Basca. I am a pleasantly plump white woman with blonde hair and a pink shirt and a multicolored wrap around my shoulders. I am speaking with headphones on into a microphone in front of a white wall with a purple poster that says Our First Priority, which is the film I wrote and directed on it. And Rabia, it's your turn to take it away.
Oh, yes. My name is Rabia Sitabi. I am a melanated African Asian woman with her hair slicked back into a bun. Normally, my hair is very curly and down to my butt. I'm currently wearing glasses. I have a actual golden septum, and which I forgot to mention before, by the way. I'm just now realizing that that is a thing that is also part of my body. I'm wearing an oversized Dreamers Club hoodie because it is really cold over here in Amsterdam right now, and I am voluptuously built. I would say I'm on the fuller, thicker side. I'm pleasantly thick with a double instead of a CK. What else? I'm wearing a black T-shirt underneath, and yeah, I'm happy that we're doing this again. This is our final panel for Ariel and me. We've been doing this all day, so I might be a little droopy and look like I'm, gazing away, but that's just me being engaged, actually.
All right. Well, I would love for Cypher to introduce herself first, if you would not mind.
Oh,
Just a
shucks.
self-description and a quick bio, if you would not mind.
Okay. I am Cypher. She, her. I am a Vietnamese woman, light skin with short black hair, wearing pink clear glasses and a black sweater with cute little ghosts on it. Um, I used to be a effects animator on shows like Solar Opposites and Rick and Morty, and currently am working on a series of fictional horror short films and audio dramas, and a clothing line to launch for October 1st of 2022, called Hard Luck Sessions. So if you guys get a chance, please check that out.
Awesome. Cannot wait. All right, Jennifer.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Valdez. I am a Hispanic woman with short brown hair. I have large earrings and two necklaces on. I'm wearing a black shirt with orange pumpkins. I'm getting ready for the season. And I don't, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm in front of, I think it's a blue painted room with two white cabinets behind me. And I do also have piercings. I have a septum ring and I have tattoos all over my arms. In case you can't see them, they're their sleeves of tattoos, and I am an award-winning horror filmmaker. I've had a feature that had worldwide distribution. I've spoken at many different film festivals. I've had quite a number of premieres. We had a film that screened at a movie theater. So I've been doing this for quite a while, and that's me. I'm Jennifer, and I'm happy to be here today. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And P?
Hi, I'm P. Woodruff, she, her, and I'm a middle-aged, middle-class Jewish housewife and mom, and I look exactly like that, in a ball cap and my largest glasses on, and a white t-shirt and a comfortable sweater, hiding in my office / storeroom / library / video room. And I'm a filmmaker, and also kind of micro nano budget producer, and prepping for AFM for the first time. So we'll be shopping a few series. I'm with Lucky Six Productions Incorporated out here in Los Angeles.
Very cool. Thank you, P. And I'm delighted to be able to welcome you all to this conversation, kind of talking about horror community and so forth. I wondered if maybe we could go around, starting with you, P, talking a little bit about why exactly you felt a kinship with the horror community as a creator with disabilities, as a person with disabilities. Like, is there a reason why you found community within the horror community?
Most definitely. I believe that the horror community, by its nature, by its definition, horror fans, horror creators, they're marginalized simply because they're horror fans. And so because of that, not only is it a place that welcomes diversity, it kind of draws it like a magnet. And, it's kind of a self-feeding. And so within that community, we're able to find female support or disabled support, or, you don't have to define yourself as one type of person, creator. You're a member of the community, and you can be multifaceted. You can be more than your disability. You can be a creator with disabilities, right? There's room for us here in horror. So yeah, I think that's very specifically because it's unique. If you want to end up in the principal's office, have a kid who is a horror fan, and just for no other reason, right? Oh, the kid drew a monster, or she likes witches, and she's 8 years old and she's watching what, Charmed? You're going to be in the principal's office. They're marginalized as a community, and so as a disabled creator, they're definitely a home for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something a lot of us can relate to. How about for you, Jennifer?
I feel like I was drawn to horror from a young age. Finding community within the genre for me was definitely just like clockwork. You know what I mean? I just felt connected to it. You know what I mean? And the more that I became involved as a filmmaker, the more I wanted to see people like me, people with disabilities that were shown on screen, not a character who is disabled, known for the character that they are. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like there's too much focus on calling a character disabled when that shouldn't be the main focus of who the character is basically what I was getting at. So within my work as it has evolved, you know, being a filmmaker with disabilities has become more of my identity, you know, as a person. And I guess that doesn't happen with everybody, because obviously it's secondary. I am a filmmaker with disabilities. I'm not a disabled filmmaker, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about the way that society thinks about it, and the way that it's received, you know, the way the information is received and and put forth in the media and everything, and they're not getting it right just yet. I guess I would say. But you know, I definitely feel connected to horror as a whole, you know, because you're having to go through so much turmoil, so many emotions, you know, people are dealing with all these traumas, and that's something that people with disabilities are facing every day. So, you know, I think that it was an easy way for me to get across the things that I was dealing with, and the horrors that I was dealing with my real life, you know, and putting that forth on the screen in a way that other people could relate to and understand, you know, my emotion, you know, my journey and everything. So that's the kind of stuff that, like, I try to connect with my viewers in that way. I try to put my whole, you know, leave myself vulnerable and give of myself to my film work, you know. And I think it's that's received, and that's well received. So
yeah, and
awesome.
giving of yourself in that particular kind of way, you know, it is a community that you can give back to, as well as receive quite a bit from. Absolutely. How about for you, Cypher?
Well, I'm the new kid. Because for the longest time, this is generally the first time I've decided to partake in a community. Because there's always been barriers to entry. Being a Vietnamese American, it's like there's the racism, and there is, I guess, genre definitions, right? So nowadays, people like to choose words like elevated or high concept. And as a creator, it's already hard enough to make something and get it produced and put it on a screen. And to have your audience, like an audience, just boil you down to something, whether they like it or not. And this ties into, you know, some of the conflicts with identity, because they're like, well, I don't resonate with this culture, therefore it's garbage. And it's like, well, you know, just like when you meet someone, are we going to give you a chance to have a chat and get to know each other, or are you just going to look at me and then just be like, psh, walk away? So for me, like, participating in any community really was always like an issue, because it wasn't what people wanted, right? They have a checklist. They have a lovely little box that they want to be able to check off to see if you are allowed in. It's the same thing for, you know, anime and manga and different varieties of this, like the comic books and stuff. So I've never really try to connect with anyone. I also was diagnosed extremely later in life for neurodivergency. And so when I found out, it wasn't like, oh, let me go find a group. It was kind of more like oh, like things kind of make sense now because of the trajectory of my life, and like even the field of animation. There are a lot of people with neurodivergency based on the type of work we do. And that it kind of just like made sense. Like, oh, like I was always like in the midst of everyone else, and we just didn't know until people who are diagnosed knows for sure. But I didn't know for a really long time. And when I found out, things started to make sense why suddenly I could talk to some people but not others. But just like I mentioned earlier, like with racism, I've always like dealt with this like strange bias whenever the talk of horror came up. But this is generally with like the fan base, because I find that horror makers of all kinds are like amazing, lovely freaking people. Like when you're on Twitter and I'm looking at like Beckwoods, you know, they're sharing like pages of their scripts and their time of like trying to be writers and then making their films, like Cargill from the writer of Sinister, he writes these lovely, like, you guys can do it. Like, you just have to start on page 1 and that's where we need to be. And my favorite is like Lee Wennell. He wrote the Saw series and he writes these wholesome, like all caps messages on Twitter at the end of the night, just be like, remember, like, you're fucking awesome. And I'm like, the makers are like where we want to be. The fan base is just like the audience, right? It's all subjective and we all have taste, but that's the thing about cinema is there's a little something for everybody. I just don't really appreciate when I get shoved to the corner just because I'm not like interested in the same things that other people are. But there are also others who are like curious to know what is this new thing that I haven't heard about. So just like the world, it's a little hard to navigate, but eventually we'll get there, and that's the whole point, right? So that's how I feel about Community. I mean, I'm still trying to find mine, but I mean, so far everyone's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend for Community any of the people in this room, but just saying. But I do totally see what you're saying, though. There's another creator I'm going to give a quick shout to, which is Junji Ito. If you've ever seen his reaction videos to Cats, I'm sorry, but like that alone just makes me so happy in my heart that the creator of Uzumaki just is so obsessed with adorable kitties. Like just makes me happy. So
I think my favorite meme from Japan is when they asked Miyazaki and I think Satoshi Kon, like, do you listen to the Beatles? And then they just show the artwork that these two men make, and one listens to the Beatles and the other one doesn't. And I was like, oh, okay. The little things in life.
Yeah, the little things in life. It's true. But I one thing that we talked a little bit in our first panel that I'd like to return to again right now is maybe talking a little bit about gatekeeping and how you've experienced gatekeeping within the horror community explicitly. I wonder, Rabia, if you don't mind starting off this conversation because you have a lot of interesting experiences with gatekeeping in horror.
Yeah. So I love that Cypher mentioned elevated horror, which is a word I hate. I work with film festivals and I work with a lot of people also working with art house and and move in spheres where people who want to like horror but they don't want to be associated with the people who also like Saw maybe or like the Evil Dead series. So whenever they get really excited about a movie like Hereditary or Midsommar, they want to distance themselves from the freaks and the geeks and the outcasts on the fringes of society by calling it elevated and highbrow and artsy and it's still horror. People, thrillers is a subgenre of horror. If you're watching an action thriller, technically that could fall under horror depending on how much physical emotion it occurs in your body while watching it. So I think there's this stigma on horror that already others the people that watch horror, like, oh, they're the freaks, they're the other ones. And those same people don't realize that their favorite directors and actors started in horror as their first, movie, as their first acting gig. I mean, look back, especially in the Western cinema. If you look back, like down on people's resume, what their first thing was, it was horror because it is nowadays a higher threshold. But back in the day, like if we're talking about the 70s, the 80s, maybe even a little bit the 90s, it was a lower threshold to get into horror. You would just shoot something low budget, make it maybe fun, make it gory, make it have a story that you wanted to tell. And especially also for marginalized people, it was a way to get your story heard, because horror is what people would eventually consume. If you went to the video store or the Blockbuster, Videoland in my country, horror was the section that most people would be renting from. Sure, people get some rom-coms, but if you wanted to do a movie night with friends, you'd get horror. and especially if it comes to Asian horror. So getting back to Community, for me, especially being young, I was orphaned during my teens, so I didn't have uh, how do you call that, a steadfast family structure to rely back on. And that's when I went to film festivals. I always grew up with film, with cinema, in the broadest sense of the word, whether it's Bollywood or Tollywood or international cinema, French cinema, Dutch cinema, and obviously also English and American cinema. So I was like, let's just go to the movies, and if other people like movies that I like, maybe I can be friends with them. So I started working at this fantastic film festival as a volunteer. And I found out that people who are into genre film and specifically horror, apart from obviously there's assholes in every community, whether it's anime, horror, or any other community, but they were the most warm and open and accepting people that I had come across. I was like, I'm always seen as a weirdo, but you guys don't mind this. This is amazing. Wait, you're also into Takashi Miike? I'm so excited. I'm throwing my microphone here. I'm sorry. So it was just a warm bath experience. Like I was coming into home. These people wouldn't judge me. I could wear whatever I wanted to. I could say whatever I wanted to, as long as I wasn't disrespecting a person. And these hardcore horror lovers, like total gore hounds, like I'm talking about big guys, 6 feet something. And then the moment that they found out that I had a disability, or that I had some trouble processing some stuff, they would forcibly create safe spaces for me. Like, are you okay? Do I need to get you something? Look like big Papa Bears. And I was like, this has never happened to me before. I was always an outcast in high school and, elementary school, especially because of the color of my skin. And I live in a white country, so I went to white schools. But now I find a community where, being different is cool. Like everyone's cool. Wait, you're from India? Do you have good Indian horror movies? And I'm like, I actually don't know. Let's find out. I was a teenager and I was like, let's find out. There is apparently, a Chucky remake from my birth year. Now I'm an expert on this field at this point. I mean, Ariel can verify and Pete can verify this. But as a teenager, I wasn't even I wasn't even that deep into Indian horror movies. Although I did know the Japanese, the Korean ones, the Taiwanese ones. And I started watching more and more and more. And all the stuff that, people in school would kind of side eye me for was the stuff that they would be like, yeah, oh, you saw that movie? Let's watch it. There's another fantastic film festival coming next week. Are you buying tickets? We're buying tickets. Let's watch it together. Oh, there's this horror marathon night. You bring blankets, the other one brings chocolate milk, and the other one brings snacks. And to be honest, during really hard times in my life, even in support, as in support that you would expect from a traditional family structure, which I didn't have, obviously. I would get that from the communities that I was part of, and the horror community was there at the base of that. I think they were the most active. If something broke in my house, I would have 3 people from my horror club over, and they would be fixing whatever, a radiator or something like that, because I didn't have the money to get a repairman for that. But I knew 3 guys who were really into this one, crazy Korean movie, and I could probably get them like a bootleg of it that they could watch at my place with snacks, and they were fine with that. As long as I made spicy food, they would fix my radiator. And
That's awesome. And that's like the best definition of community when
oh
you can.
yeah.
Amen.
Well, and to bring it back to 3 of us, at least in this panel, during the pandemic, I was completely isolated. I'm immunocompromised. Our vaccines here in Europe came way later than in the States. I was not able to go anywhere for at least 2 years. And Clubhouse was there, and I was on there, and I rolled into this room that said horror on the top, and it said good morning horror family, which was started by Ariel. And I just started talking to people, and they were like, "Oh, you're going? Oh, wait, come back. Like, we want to talk to you more." And I was like, "What?" And I spent a year and a half in that group. And we're like, look, we're all doing projects together, and Ariel and I have been able to team up and to go to South by Southwest, and Ariel created a short out of that community. So we met P there, who was an amazing human being who I would not have known if she was not part of the horror community. And like that, there's so many other opportunities and projects that have come across my path simply by being part of a community. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with the horror community. Again, I want to put an asterisk there because there are massive assholes, and when they're there, oh my god. I mean, there's patriarchy, misogyny, racism,
Well,
white
there's the human
supremacy.
condition.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Right? Wherever there
So
are people, there is the human condition. But within the horror community, there is a unique set of people that you do not find anywhere else in the world.
exactly. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So
Horror
I'm
is incredibly inclusive, and
Yeah.
it even becomes an argument because, like, when there are horror movies that does not involve this inclusivity, it becomes a big talk. So, like, 28 Days Later is a great example. When we used to have, like, Night of the Living Dead, and they're like, yeah, everyone's a zombie, everyone is undead. But then you have 28 Days Later, and they're like, yeah, who becomes zombies first? And now we started breaking down this inclusivity, and that becomes a huge talk over and over.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna revert it back to you, Ariel, because you and I met in the horror community, and we built our only tiny sub community in that. But how does community play a role for you and in your relationship to horror?
Well, that's interesting because for me, like, horror was something I did alone for most of my life until I got to college. When I got to, because my parents were very, very vocally opposed to horror as a genre. Like, they weren't even aware of the time when I watched my first horror film at age 3. They weren't aware of the fact that I had a group of girls that I would have sleepovers with, and that we just watched horror movies all night long. And then
so what's that first horror movie?
the first horror
At
movie
age
was
of
Nightmare
3.
on Elm Street.
Oh.
Yeah. I saw A Nightmare on Elm Street at age 3, and I saw Freddy Krueger, and I was like, hey, it's someone who looks like me. At the time, I had a blood red and purple hemangioma on the right side of my face. And so it was the first time I saw someone with a severe disfigurement that looked something like mine, in something that, actually represented life on screen, rather than inspiration porn, for example. But that's a whole other conversation. But I found kind of my sense of community actually first as a teenager with this group of girls from the school who just, we were the outcasts, the misfits. And so we just got together every Friday night and watched horror movies. I snuck them in to see The Craft when it opened in theaters. I pretended to be their mom because I looked that much older than they did. And it worked. It shouldn't have worked, but it worked. So, that's how it goes. And when I got to college, though, like, we had like our own community. We were the sci-fi and fantasy club, and we just watched really bad horror movies every Monday night. And it was something that we reveled in and that we celebrated. And it was the first time in my life I felt like I was a part of not just a small group of misfits, but a larger community on the whole. Because I liked the really extreme shit, however, I was still sort of the outcast within that community. And it was like, oh my God, Ariel watched I Spit on Your Grave. How dare she? Like, So edgy.
Ariel, I tried to play Takashi Miike's imprint in an animation lab and had 40 people fucking scream at me to get out of the room. Now you understand why it took me till this point to be like, should I come back? Like, am I gonna get yelled at about banned films right now? Like,
yeah,
it's
a
tough.
question.
Yeah.
It's a question. So I mean, like the whole aspect of community and gatekeeping is something that, you know, like within the communities I've been lucky enough to be a part of, I've been largely accepted. But the extreme shit, I will say, like there always seems to be a bit of pushback against that within the broader scope of the horror community. But I don't know, Jennifer, how do you feel about that?
I'm just listening. I agree with everything that you're saying, actually. I think sometimes it depends on who you know. Unfortunately, sometimes, you know what I mean? Some of these festivals, and they're putting forth, you know, they have favorites, I guess you would say, you know, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I've been to great festivals where I've found such amazing community, and you know, felt completely comfortable and really able to be myself, and you know, let them really know my identity as a person and a filmmaker. And then I've been to festivals where I feel that you're just like marginalized, just like a number. You're you know, you're not even a human being. You're the person with a disability. You know, you're in unfortunately in a lot of situations. But I personally, I try to use that as my power. I've learned a lot in Respectability Lab. Actually, they've helped me a lot to basically like to get over a lot of the things that I was feeling about my own disability that I didn't even realize were there, you know. So after I did the lab and I got all these skills that I didn't realize I even needed, I was able to do a lot of networking, and I forced myself into a pattern of networking with different filmmakers, different people, meeting, trying to build teams of production teams to work with, and you know, diversify the people that I'm choosing to work with. And you know, a lot of these movies that I do, I produce, I direct, I do the video editing. So, you know, as a whole, you know, as a producer, I'm really putting the whole thing together myself. So, I've had to create a lot of relationships, you know, and with people through film work and stuff. And you know, so it's a difficult position to put yourself in, but you know, I kind of force myself into it. I force myself into situations that are uncomfortable so that, you know, they can maybe be a little easier the next time. You know, it's my dream to be a professional director. So transitioning from being an independent filmmaker to, you know, getting my foot in the door for that first real gig it's real hard. You know, it's difficult, you know. This year, well, last year, I was hired to work at AMC Networks. So I feel pretty good about being able to do, after being out on disability for 7 years, I'm able to do some work that, work in a place that makes me feel comfortable. It gives me pride, that makes me feel good about myself. So, I'm in the broadcasting department, but, I've got my foot in the door. So, from here, who knows, I could work my way into production. I really think I can, So, I try to be about it. I try to, I don't talk about it. I try to be about it. I just keep going, because otherwise I'll trip over my own feet. So
Mm.
I, I've had a lot
Do,
of challenges when it came into breaking into the community. But, now if you look up my work, you'll see I've done like a ton of different festivals and I've won all these different awards. And, if you really putting your mind to something that you feel connected to and feel strongly about, I think then it's worth doing it. So I kind of had to break my way into the community, but I I'm proud of the work that I've done. I can say that that it was challenging. It wasn't easy, but I feel like in the position that I am at right now, I got a good job with the network, and it's part-time, so I have the freedom to be able to do the creative things that I want to do and to be able to take care of my health, all the things that are important. There's going to be a good balance here for me, you know. So for me, I was able to market my disability in a positive light, so that they didn't think that that they thought I was capable of doing the job. You know what I mean? And I think that that's the challenge that some people are having, with transitioning from being an independent or a freelance to working in a job in the industry or something like that. I think that was one of my biggest challenges, to figure out how to, just basically how to get your foot in the door, how do I make myself marketable? Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm getting off topic a little, but when you had originally said gatekeeping, I was thinking the first thing that came to mind for me was how Hollywood thinks about disability
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that light, because they're, sorry if I'm getting off topic, but I just feel like there's not like, back to authentic representation. We're not, they're showing like the white person in the wheelchair. They're not,
Always.
and that's who they're, they're not saying the woman who was a psychiatrist who worked, here and there, and her identity as a person is not her disability. And I think that's part of the problem. I think that they're where gatekeeping is, you're not getting those authentic characters. They're not making it through to where they need to be. So just a thought on that. I don't know if anybody has
No,
any-
absolutely, because I think
Absolutely.
authentic representation is such a huge part of this conversation. Absolutely, in every sense. What were you going to say,
Visibility.
Rabia, though? I'm sorry.
Oh, I wanted to ask Jennifer, because in the way that you're expressing yourself, I'm wondering if the gatekeeping that you've experienced, especially as a filmmaker, has also kind of like shaped these thought patterns with you, because you keep referring to freelance and independent as like that versus professional. Whereas in my mind, as someone who consumes film, you are a professional. I am not hearing those inner voices maybe that you have, or those distinctions. So I'm wondering if that is something simply because you distinguish it that way, or that is a thought process that has formed due to all the gatekeeping that you have experienced. If it's not too personal to ask.
No, I think that
obviously.
that's absolutely accurate. I think that, I'm going to be 40. I have an acquired disability, which I acquired when I was in my 20s. So breaking into the industry, when I say professional versus like independent, breaking into the industry would be, like getting your first professional job at a studio or a company or a network and working for them. And so that's what I meant as far as independent work for me was I was, you know, finding funding for my own projects and you know, writing, directing, producing, video editing, doing all the different things for the film. I'm being my own one woman film studio,
Yeah.
so to speak. But I had never, because of my disability and the long hours that it takes to, you know, to work in film, I wasn't able to work the kind of job that I was looking to work. So for me, that was the job at AMC is my first professional job. So I consider that me breaking into the industry. Yes, I already have a lot of film festival credentials and all that stuff, but you know, without your first professional job, I don't know how like if you're it depends on what you're going for. Like I'm not going to get hired as a professional film director. I'm just not. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's true. You know, I need to have that first job where I'm working in you know, in a production studio or in an industry production, you know. So
why would you feel that way though? Like I understand where you're coming from, and I think this is a really clear way of how the times are definitely has changed. Because obviously I am younger, but like I also grew up in the space of independent creators, right? And so now there is a whole community that unfortunately Hollywood ignores, but there is a whole community of creators who are actually just as successful or actually more than Hollywood. And it's just because they just don't have Hollywood on their resume that they're just being ignored. So there are directors out there that has done independent films, like just like you were saying, right? Skeleton Crew, just single. Like I'm a one person studio as well, but I don't put Hollywood on a fucking pedestal. And this is a thing that like America has. They have like an idolism issue, right? So it might not be Hollywood, but like when I was having my adventure through animation, it was either you work at Disney or you're a nobody, and I call bullshit on that. Work is work. You create and you made a thing. It doesn't negate or devalue the rest of the work that you plan to do for the rest of your life. But so what I'm trying to say here is like there is a leveling out of the playing field now. Like Hollywood isn't the place to be anymore to be considered a professional director. You know, great example is like James Wan, you know, Corin Hardy, he made The Hollow. It's like his first freaking movie, you know, and he probably sat there too thinking like, well, how do I get to be a film director? Right. But it's the horror community. James Wan saw his work, thought he could do it, asked him to come on. Same thing with David Sandberg, a independent director all the way from freaking Sweden, made a short film that eventually became our feature film Lights Out. You know, like what I'm trying to say is, Jen, like, I believe in you. I think whatever you do, whatever you fucking want to do, like, fuck those guys over there. Just do you. And somebody that has the ability to, like, throw the rope and pull people up will find you. They don't hang. They all do not hang out in this industry and the other side where the shiny fucking trophies are. Like when I was working in Toronto, and I asked the people, and I was very fortunate to get to be on a set with the people who worked on Scott Pilgrim. And they were like, and I asked them, I was like, so your thoughts on, you know, the industry, right? Independent, not independent. Do I just go be a studio person for the rest of my fucking life? Or do I get to go do whatever the fuck I want, you know, and tell them to F off? And they all, it's really interesting, but they all had said the same thing to me, which was you got 2 feet, one in each door, because that's how we can pull each other up. So, you know, I hear where you're going, and because everyone's goals are different. You know, like I went independent into a studio, and I was like, no, fuck it, I'm going back to independent. Because we need the stories that we all want to tell. They ain't gonna fucking make it. They're basically like shitting on us, and they're like, we would rather remake a fucking American Pie franchise than go make your goddamn movie. And I'm like, all right, fuck off. This bitch over here sitting on Twitch makes way more money than you do in a month. Yo, like she's taking in $5 million, and your ass is like, yeah, I don't think your movie's gonna do anything. No, go eat shit. Like, you do you, and somebody out there who enjoys the space that we all enjoy. We like consuming different things. We like to hear what people are doing with their lives. Someone's going to see you and be like, you know what? I want to hang out with this girl. What's this woman doing? Hey, you free? Like, let's get some coffee. I saw your movie. These festivals that you're talking about, someone saw it. They're going to remember you 2-3 years. Unfortunately, Hollywood takes 11 years to fucking make anything now. So you're better off on your own because you can probably get it done in 3 years. And I'd rather sit and work and make something, even if only 100 people are going to see it, than give it to Hollywood and it might get shelved after 12 years. That's 12 years of your fucking life, girl. Like, I ain't waiting for someone to give me permission to be a fucking storyteller and a filmmaker. And so my rant here is, I fucking believe in you. I hate it that America created this culture to make people think that you got to be at X, Y, and Z to be somebody. You are somebody. Fuck them. You don't need their permission. Sorry, I'm mad.
Preach, Cypher. I love it. I love it.
Like,
we need it.
Everyone here, everyone here, you guys are telling how you feel your stories. They ain't hearing you. Like, I just grilled at AZEC that made Cowboy Bebop, and I literally sat there like, you are the problem. You don't even see it that you are the fucking problem. Like, this is why we're recycling fucking movies. No one wants to watch a rehash of something from 30 years ago. Guess what? We knew it was made 30 years ago. We watched it probably over 30 times. We're done. We don't need another version of this. Yeah. Or we don't need a modern version of this. The only one that fucking works is a video game. And they made Until Dawn, and they're like, we're going to make the quarry and update the fucking lingo. And I was like, that shit hit. that resonated way too quickly than people thought it did, and it did a great job. But Jen, like, I'm sorry that this is what the fucking system has made you feel. Like, we all here believe in you. You don't need permission from some douchebag over there. They're not even the one signing your check. The person hiring you isn't even the one fucking signing your check. So they can go eat shit. You do you, and like in 5 years, like, I'm waiting for your movie. I don't need some bitch over there to tell me what to watch. I'm waiting for you to tell me, hey, we're fucking releasing this on fucking next Friday the 13th. And I'm like, I'm there. I'm there with my popcorn and fucking soju. Let's go.
Yep. No, I think that's a really great speech, Cypher. And I should hire you as a motivational speaker for me every time I feel like down in the dumps about what I'm doing. I think
need a sassy woman in the room to be like, fuck off.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't know, P. Like, do you ever get this Cypher energy inside of you when you're, confronting what you're doing in your work?
Well, I'm of a different generation, so I think of it differently. I have a lot of female friends who are active women directors. Right. And so it is a leap to do, quote, a professional gig. It means union hours. And these are people who are looking for, they're hoping to get their DGA cards. They want a DGA trainee job, or they're looking to transition from, first AD to directing. They're trying to get in a certain position to do a certain thing. And once you get, so again, that first job in that arena is an enormous step forward, because it's the only way somebody's going to, it's really hard to get a first step in anything, right? I mean, it's just hard to get where somebody's writing you a check. That's that's a goal for some people. For my own self, I mean, again, I work mostly in the, in the producer realm. And so again, that's not my goal. But it is a lot of people that I work with. It's their goal. They want to get, those kinds of jobs. And so I can't, so they're, I don't look down or up upon it. It is what it is. It's an area of the industry. Just like when somebody says I write Hallmark romances, I don't look down or up at them, because that's what they do. That's their interest, and that's the path that they're following. So again, I don't look at it like a plus or a minus. It just is an area of the industry that people go into, right? And then again, there are people who enjoy. I know people who are monsters at the one-man band thing, like you, Ariel. I mean, oh my God, you're just like charging through, and you just, you drove, and you are just an awesome leader and organizer, and I have a lot of friends that's their path, right, and that's what they're choosing to do. So I don't look at it necessarily as better or less. It's just not my path, right? It's just not something that I choose to do. And I do appreciate the calling out of the, idolizing of it, because again, that's about how you see it. Being quote professional or being paid isn't anything to be idolized. It's just something different other than, driving your own one-man band. And so it's good to recognize it, but not set that as that's not the bellwether for being good at your job, right? There are a lot of awesome and fantastic, brilliant indie filmmakers. They're just two very different but valid paths.
And I think that's a really great point to make, that there are these different but equally valid paths that you can take within the film industry and within, kind of, your path to becoming quote unquote respectable in the horror community, etc. Whatever that may mean. I don't know. I don't know that.
So independent, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because there are some people who are like, for them, the big badge of courage is making the most out of the box thing, right?
Yeah.
And then for some, it's making the most mainstream thing, something that all the family would go to and that they would have at AMC. I mean, it's, again, this is the beauty of the horror community, right? There is no other genre that has the vastness and the inclusivity and the room for different types of artistry and growth that we do. Just think about the art involved in horror and the music, and we just don't have the opportunity for that level of artistry, and inclusion of other types of art within any other genre of film. Horror and the horror community is so unique, and I find new things to marvel at every day.
That's very cool. I don't know. How do you feel about kind of other aspects of the people that you've met at festivals and so forth that you've engaged with about your work, Jennifer? I'm just curious, like, if you feel like this kinship within the horror community when you go to festivals and have those experiences, with fans and so forth.
How do I feel?
How do you feel about kind of the horror community when you're bringing your work to other audiences, etc.?
Excited, definitely excited. I've had film screen at Horror Hound, so I went to Ohio. I've had a film screen in Texas at Comicpalooza. So I've gone to, it's humbling to know that you've reached somebody, when somebody goes out of their way to speak to you about something that they saw, that means that they connected with it, that I did my job properly, that they, if someone was touched by my work and they have something, positive to it, for somebody to go out of their way to talk to you about something is rare. so I feel very flattered, and humbled when, people feel connected enough to share a conversation, pretty much.
And on some level, I think we're all so fortunate to be in an industry that enables us to connect to other people in this kind of a way. Like we're all in this industry and we all are able to connect to other people through our work, whether it's programming or filmmaking. And, I think it's so important and so valuable to be able to do this. And I think it's really incredible. And I just wonder, like, for you, what I'm going to start with you, P. What do you want to do for the horror community through your work?
Well, I feel very strongly about mental illness and its representation in film in general. I'm only hopeful about that subject within the horror community. I'm not very. I don't hold out much hope for cinema or media at large when it comes to addressing that, simply because the horror community is the only place that you can talk about the genuine frailties of the human condition, what it is to be us. And but yeah, the mental health aspect, I would like to be able to I would like to be a safe place for that conversation. It is my dream to be Roger Corman for marginalized, disabled people to be able to make a first thing, because that's such a huge, a first. All firsts are huge, but you never learn so much as you do to make a first thing. And even if you're just picking up your iPhone and doing it on your own, it's still a rich man's game.
Mhm.
And something we don't talk about enough is the financial marginalization of people who are already marginalized by their disability. And if you're a female or if you're a person of color, I'm sorry, you're more likely to fall into this gap. And there's real need for people to be a voice for those folks. And that would be my dream. And I'm going to go right now.
Okay. We love you, P. You're amazing. Cypher, would you like to comment on what you would like to bring to the community?
I am here to remind everyone that you are loved and we're gonna have fucking fun. That's what I want. My biggest thing about being a storyteller is that I want to create projects that becomes people's favorite stories to tell again later, and create projects that people want to work on. Like I want to hear on my dying bed someone's like, that was my favorite fucking movie to be on. Like I wanted to be on that set, or I wanted to be in that recording booth. That's what I want. Even if no one fucking watches or reads my shit later, I want someone to be like, no, like this time that we spent together, like never letting that go. So on top of that, I mean, a lot of the work I do, I just want to like, get people back in touch with like the human psyche, right? Being able to feel again. Basically, I want to take your heart and rip it, and then so that you can make it bigger, right? I'm gonna rip your heart out and then make it a little bigger and put it back in. But on top of that, like the world is constantly changing. So I like to have that conversation on how people are going to confront these changes, because you can't stop it, just like how we can't stop time. So, bring back some of that wonder and awe. And then maybe, like tech's a big thing. I just want to get people talking, So,
yeah,
let's go have fun.
Awesome. How about for you, Jennifer? What's your big goal with the community?
For me, I really want to continue to try to implement disabled characters into more of my work. I recently made a film for the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, and you had to shoot and edit and everything, the whole film in 5 days. And we did it, and it came out great. And it was my first time working with an actress in a wheelchair. And for me, the message of the film, it was called Invincible, and it was about her her struggle with trying to find her way up the ramp, because everywhere she looked there were stairs, so also, as P was saying, I completely agree with the mental health aspect of showing, your character's mental state, the deterioration, or how the character develops over time, mentally. I'm very, very connected to creating that kind of a narrative with my work, as well. So I do feel connected to that. I feel like it's very important to, your mental is just connected, just the same as your physical. Your you could actually be you could actually be in physical pain from stress. That's actually physically possible. But I'm getting off topic, but I really just think it's really important to inspire people the best you can, and get your message across, because us as creators, that we obviously feel very strongly about all the things that we do, and we put ourselves into everything that we do. And I guess I just want to continue to be a positive influence on other filmmakers around me that look up to what I do, and people that have challenges that might want to create projects. And I'm living proof that we're all living proof that we can do what we love. We can, we could do it as a job, or we might not need to do it as a job. We might, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just want to continue to inspire people with my work, and get it out there, and continue to allow people to peek inside what it is that that I have, that I have to give, because I have so much to give. And I think we all have these very unique stories to give. So that's my hope, that I can continue to be able to tell the kind of stories that will influence people in a positive way. And that's all I could really ask for.
Yeah. And I'm hoping the same for you, that,
Thank you.
that goes forward. And I wish the same for all of us, actually. Because I think we all are telling stories in our own ways. And Rabia, before you ask me, I'm going to say no. I'm not going to answer this question, because they've all answered it so much more beautifully than I could. Honestly.
Well, let's not forget that I do want to acknowledge that you are also doing work out there, making sure that certain perspectives and stories and identities are being heard. I mean, your short, and I'm not saying this to put you on a pedestal because we know each other, and this is simply because anyone watching this out there should know that our first priority, for instance, the medical gaslighting, it's the medical bias, not being heard by your doctor from a young age or even at an older age, is such an important story that also needs to be told, especially if it comes from a female perspective,
You
because it's
can't
something.
have a conversation about mental health, Rabia, exactly, without talking about the long-term significant psychological effect of what being told that's all in your head while
Yep.
your entire life unravels, while your
Yeah.
body is betraying you, and
Yeah.
your social circle deteriorates because, again, you're this is
Yeah.
and then so you're depressed because of this situation. Then they look at you and declare, oh, well, it's because you're depressed. And we live in this negative sustaining cycle of
Yeah.
deteriorating mental health that is attached to health. So yes, our first priority in films about this type of thing, just the importance of them cannot be overstated.
Exactly. So definitely, I know you don't want to talk about it, Ariel, because we've been mentioning it. We've been doing 3 panels. It's already been a lot. It's been a long day. Our spoons are close to done, but I did want to slightly like highlight that
Oh,
before
well,
we
you're
close out
sweet.
this final one. And then for myself, I will say something because as a
Well, I
brown
want
woman
to hear
getting
what you have to say for sure.
as a brown woman getting the stage here
Well, not
between
only
my
are you getting the stage, but you actually have the opportunity to create a stage for lots of filmmakers and bring
yeah,
together a lot of different kinds of communities through what you
yeah,
do. And so you are very explicitly a community builder in terms of what
yes.
you do, not just in terms of content.
No, exactly. And the funny thing is, I was talking about this with one of my interns at one of the festivals I'm currently working at. I am the woman that comes in, blood, sweat, and tears to get at a position where I can hire other people, which I am now doing in one of these festivals. And all of the people that I've hired either look and sound like me. Um, so we become this infestation of brown women, and we're all neurodivergent and disabled, and we're just taking all over the whole office and influencing everything that happens in the pipeline. But also people who may not look like me but don't are not getting enough representation. I purposely was looking to people who I could connect with, and making sure that all of my white colleagues, might not see this perspective and why this is so important, but I do. So we're going to advocate for this. So definitely, my work as a critic, especially my work within, film communities within the industry, as someone who can speak out influence, I try to educate. That's my whole purpose. If you've met me on Clubhouse, you've heard me educate people, talk about different perspectives, talking about different industries, talking about different countries, how there is film outside of just Hollywood, and what they're doing in the rest of the world, how they're looking at storytelling in the rest of the world, and how that can be amazing, award winning storytelling. The Oscars is not the only benchmark in the world out there. You can be an amazing filmmaker and never get an Oscar, because what the fuck is an Oscar? An Oscar only means something to people who live in Hollywood. So the rest of the world, we don't really give a shit about the Oscars, to be honest. And I can say that I live in Europe. I am both African and Asian, and with all those 3 identities, with my powers, continents combined, I can tell you we don't give a shit about the American film industry like that. I know it's a big thing for if you're trying to make it big internationally on that scale, but if you want to make it big internationally on a massive scale and really fill your pockets, the Asian film market is actually the way to be, because the Korean and the Indian film market are the ones that are actually raking in the millions right now, and have been for the past 20 years. So, do you want to make money? You go to India and you go to South Korea. If you want to have like prestige that is built up by white people and colonization, sure, America. I'm not dissing it for anyone who does have it as a goal. Just let me make that very, very clear. It's more that I've been working really hard to decolonize my thinking. And I think through education, I'm trying to decolonize other people's thinking as well. And that's the only thing from my position. I'm not a maker, but I am a person in the industry who has some type of a voice. It's not loud enough yet, if you ask me, but I have some type of a voice and some type of influence. So what I try to do is very loudly proclaim that we need to decolonize our thinking, and remove white supremacy from our systems, and how to look at more perspectives, different ways, different flavors, different thinking, representation, because our societies, especially here in the West, are so diverse. I mean, if you look outside, there's so many people out there, so many faces, so many disabilities, visible, non-visible, so many people from different backgrounds with different experiences in life. Why are they never represented properly in film? Why is that if you have a disabled person that's like their one character trait and their one personality trait is that they have a disability, let's remove that. And makers like all of you are doing that. And the one thing that I can do on the other end of the industry is make sure that you guys get through the pipeline and get attention. So
See, we're already winners, guys. We got one. We got our first viewer, and we didn't even make our things yet.
I'm always there. Send me your stuff. I will get you heard by someone. I will try my best.
Look at that. That's the insider right there.
Again,
Our
hard,
secret agent.
yeah, it's and again, and I'm not dizzing the guys of the club at all. I just would like to call out, because so often I hear people talk about, women not respecting each other. I would like to call out that within the horror community, we do have a great deal of female support.
It's
And
true.
It really is. It really is. If you're looking for support,
I would like a sisterhood. Is this what they say?
Is that what we're
what
forming
the-
right now?
Is that
what's
the
happening?
word that they use in America, like the sisterhood, like this thing? Like I thought it was a coven. Like I'm from
Maybe it's a coven.
Massachusetts, yo.
Can we be a coven now? Like,
Yo,
seriously,
I am
Jennifer,
from
will you join us in our
Massachusetts. I
coven?
thought, yes.
Look, Cypher, I can be a sister and I have a hood, so we're good.
Oh,
We're getting there. Let's go.
Awesome.
October is coming.
I don't
The
have a
first
hood. I'll
summoning-
just pretend.
Exactly. Just put on your pretend hood. It's
invisible.
all good.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap this up, but I will see you at the next ritual that we have, planned. We'll have some kind of bloodletting ritual in a couple of days, and we'll stand around a cauldron and chant. But in the meantime, if you would be so good as to tell the fine people out there where they can find your stuff on social media.
Let's start with reverse of alphabetical order. So we'll start with P. Where can we find you online?
I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Clubhouse as P. Woodruff.
Awesome. Clear. Jennifer.
You could find me on Facebook, Instagram, and probably Google my name. You'll find me on there. Jennifer Valdez. Jennifer Valdez Film on Facebook. And look for more stuff from me. Love you guys.
Awesome. And Cypher.
Hi, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Dr. Pudgy Pudgy, Dr. Pudgy Pudgy. And if you guys are interested in the first summoning, all my short films and audio and the clothing line will drop on October 1st, 2022. So you can find that at Hard Luck Sessions. That will be on Instagram and Twitter, and the website samename.com.
Awesome. And then Ariel, you and I, last time of the night, or for me, the night, for you is still afternoon, I think.
Yeah.
I've already passed midnight. It's already Sunday for me at this point.
Oh my gosh. All right.
You go for it.
All right. So I am at Ruin My Sky on Twitter, at Just Ask a Basca on Instagram. Yeah, that's a thing. Otherwise, you can find me at arielbasca.com. All the things are there. And Rabia and I are also both found at omnibusride.com.
Yes.
Rabia, my darling.
Yes. And
Thank
I
you
am
guys.
I am Arpish everywhere on social media. That is RPISH. You can find me on arpish.com, rabiasitabi.com, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Omnibusride.com for the podcast. And I think it's theculturedcurators.com for the other one. I have not checked my website in a bit, but if you check Arpish, then you'll find all the other stuff that I'm doing. I'm most active on Twitter, so.
Cool. Well, endless love to all of you, and so much to our viewers as well for
Thank you,
tuning
guys.
in. I was delighted to be able to have this conversation with so many wonderful women. So
Thanks
Anyway.
so much for asking me. It was wonderful to be here.
have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.